We'll just take a second though, because I do think it takes a minute to, here we go, have people pop in. We'll get just a minute, but I am super excited about this. I'm excited to see both of you, even you, Georgie, who I get to talk to a lot, but you never go on camera. It's a thing, just saying.
I know it's a thing.
It's
It's a lot earlier where I am than where you are.
also true. All right, we're gonna just take a second and let folks in. Sorry, we got a few minutes late, a little technical issues, a bit getting ourselves organized. We had a bunch of folks sign up. I suspect a lot of people are watching the game though too. So
Yeah, I think it looks like it just ended. Will we see participants or no?
we won't see them, but they will. You can start seeing folks come in. Folks who are coming in, please do say hello, drop your name in the chat, say where you are, say where you are from, maybe what brought you here today. We'd love to know more about you. I'll do quick intros and then we'll just get right into this. I'm Amy Pritchard. I'm the founder of Game Power. I am super excited to be joined by actually three, because Alison's still here, three of my most favorite girlfriends and people really in progressive politics in the world. These are folks who I've had the privilege of knowing for a really long time, but we're very intentional about inviting to this particular session today on networking. Game Power is doing a series of events, post-election events for folks coming off the campaigns. We're calling it Powering Blue, Talent and Transition. We're doing a whole series. We did one last week on resumes, which were pretty basic, but we had amazing recruiters. So we just put that page actually up today on our website. Today, we're here to talk about networking. We're doing all sorts of networking events, career panels, et cetera, et cetera. And you can find out more about it on Game Power. I'm going to dig right into this one, though. We are here to talk about networking, which honestly, I think is both one of the most fun topics, but in some ways, probably the hardest one. Is in a lot of ways, I think, hardest to define what it is. I did do a presentation and put it up there. And I do a lot of trainings, and I really struggled with sort of like defining the act of networking, even though I feel like it's something that I do all the time. And honestly, I learned most of what I know about networking politics from one of our guests, Teresa Vilmain, who I am thrilled to have with us. I've known Teresa, audio cut out. Are we being heard? I hope we are. I've known Teresa longer than either of us would care to admit to, so I won't say how long, but probably longer than a lot of folks have been alive on this session. Like I said, I remember hearing about Teresa before I actually met her. Good. I'm hoping other folks here. Really, in so many ways, I think define the art of networking, at least in politics. And so I'm super excited, Teresa, that you were able to make time for us today. And Georgie Aguirre-Sacasa, who is actually now my business partner, but long before she was my partner, that's actually a pretty new relationship for us, but we've known each other a very long time. Both of these women have worked in democratic and progressive politics for, we'll just say, more than a decade. That's a polite way of putting it. And among the reasons we invited both of you here today is, frankly, that you're not in DC. I'm actually not in DC today, but we really wanted to have a real conversation about how you kind of live in this progressive world of ours. And I use progressive as a catch-all for so many different things. I wanted to talk to you a little bit just about your career journey. We'll start with that. I could rattle it off, but I'd rather you share your own story. And then talk about just kind of how you've navigated in this space, how you have made your way, particularly not being, based in DC, because I do think in so many ways it's probably better, and you'll say why that's so. And then after you share a little bit about yourself, I'll ask some questions. For folks who are joining us online, love you to ask questions. If you want to put them in the Q&A, that's great. Definitely drop in your name and where you're from so we know who's watching. Excited to see so many folks today. And with that, maybe Teresa, I'll go to you. Give us a little bit of your background. Like I said, I didn't want to share your story. I'd rather hear you tell it.
Okay, well, first I wanted to say thank you for inviting me here. And for those folks that are joining this online, I just want to say a big shout out to Amy. You've created unbelievable community for people to come in a safe space for so many years, and you've never given up hope that we can all get smarter, get better, and build community. So thank you, and thanks for inviting me. I also want to just say thanks to Alison Schwartz, who herds cats better than anyone I know. And it's fun to be on a Zoom panel with Georgie. It's great. And I work out of my home outside of Madison, Wisconsin in the country. I'm originally from Iowa. I traveled all over the country for many years and worked on a lot of campaigns. I'm a year away from a long-term care facility. I just turned 64. And my work started in electoral politics because I'm from that great state of Iowa that is now red. But back in the day, it wasn't red. And it used to have caucuses that actually worked. So back in the day, again, think about this, when I was in high school, I was 13. I did work in campaigns as a volunteer where there weren't computers and there weren't internets and there weren't cell phones and there weren't fax machines, there weren't pagers, there weren't even push button phones when I first got involved in politics. And what happened is I got a big feeling for it because I come from a large family and my mom used to have caucuses in our house. So when I say I worked on electoral campaigns, I worked for every level of a presidential campaign into school board campaigns. And then somewhere along the line, I got tired of doing campaign work and I moved into 501c3 and 501c4 work. Along the way, I get called up to duty and work on every national convention that there has been. And what I've been doing for the last 2 years is a lot of work around disinformation. So that's my background. I come from a very large family. So it was natural. I love to be in places where there are folks that have a common sense of living their values out loud. And also, I love to organize. So big picture and big takeaway on this, you wanted me to do a kind of an overview. I learned how to network and do politics in a very primal way, because when you don't have all of those, like what I would call privileges, okay, the internets, imagine you couldn't even leave a voicemail. So I came into politics and basically there's 3 ways you could talk to people, all right? You either sent them a letter, literally snail mail, you phoned them on a dial-up phone, or you did what I think is really important, and my theme is going to be here, in-person meetings when I could, okay? And I think one of my biggest hopes and dreams for this session is that people walk away and realize, yes, you can get a lot of business done online, but true relationships, if at all possible, if you could do in person or you could do by Zoom with your photo and your picture alive. It is not just because we had COVID. We're human beings. And the transactional ability that happens on fly-by-night is not, to me, the most engaged way you can be to build the best relationships for the best network. So I really feel like, while some of you are rolling your eyes saying, wow, she is 1 year away from a long-term care facility because she didn't have all of these bells and whistles. I got to be in politics with deep relationships. So when I left college for the first time and worked in 1980 in the presidential campaign, of which I did not know what it would be like to go and run a primary, be in a primary against an incumbent president. So I worked for Ted Kennedy's campaign. I say that with such reserve, because now that I've grown up and smarter, having a primary race against someone that's an incumbent within your own party, I just write it off. I didn't know better. But I got to be in a place where I met people and was mentored by people. And those people are still in my, what I call Rolodex, even though it's in a contact sheet. So I think my biggest takeaway here is intentional relationships. That's what I would say. I have a whole lot of things I'm going to say later, but I think I took up 4.5 minutes on that intro. So I'm going to pass it off and you're going to move it to Georgie. Amy.
You deserve that and more. But Georgie, back over to you.
Thank you, Amy. And I'm really excited to be with on the panel with Teresa Vilmain. She is one of our North Stars in progressive politics, as is Amy. And I have so many stories that I could share about Amy, but we're gonna we're going to keep it PG right now. So I got my start in politics many moons ago, and I had a friend whose father was running for city council in Cincinnati, Ohio, and she told me that he needed volunteers to go door to door. And I had no idea what they were talking about, what door to door was, what working in the field meant. But she was one of my good friends. I've never been to Cincinnati. I went and I found out really quickly what being a field person was. Talking to people face to face, door to door, calling, volunteering, lit drops, etc. And I got the bug. And my trajectory in politics was a little bit all over the place. My family is originally from Nicaragua, so I'm a first generation immigrant. And right around the time that I started getting interested in politics, my father became ambassador of Nicaragua to the United States. And in that space and time, he also started talking about maybe wanting to have a political career in Nicaragua. So I said, well, maybe I need to learn a little bit more about what it takes to run campaigns, be active in campaigns, elect people. So I ended up working at the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs for 2.5 years, working in their political party programs, focusing in Northern Ireland primarily. Then there was the 2000 election, and I realized that why am I working in a foreign country trying to bring forth democratic process and civic engagement when there's so much work that needed to be done in the United States? So I hung up my NDI hat, and I through networking, actually through a few people that had consulted for NDI, a guy by the name of Tom Lindenfeld, who is a heavyweight in progressive politics. I met with him. I sat down with him in DC, and I'm a native Washingtonian, but I currently live in Denver, Colorado. Made the move 10 years ago, and I'm very thankful I made that move, just FYI. I sat down with Tom Lindenfeld, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I have no idea what I want to do, but I think there's a presidential coming up, maybe in 2004." He said, "Okay, I'm gonna have you sit down with a few of the campaign managers in DC. They were all based in DC. I went and talked to a few, and I met with whom I still believe is my mentor in crime, Nick Baldick, and he basically hired me on the spot, said, "You're going to Raleigh in 2 weeks and you're going to do X, Y, and Z." I had no idea what he was talking about. I just said yes, and okay, I'll get there in 2 weeks. And that is how my political career in campaigns and progressive politics really took off. And that is where I learned, very similar to what Teresa said, is creating those relationships. I felt like I was back in college working on campaigns, meeting people, meeting senior campaigners who had worked in the trenches for years, and I was just a baby starting. So I listened a lot and I learned a lot, and I always made an effort to go out when they went out so I could pick their brains and start building that relationship. And I can tell you, the people that I met in 2004 have been my dearest friends since then. They're family to me. And I continued in that trajectory. After the 2004 campaign, I'm LGBTQ plus queer, and there was the marriage fight that was happening, and we were seeing more and more civil union passing at the states. And I moved into the 501c3, 501c4 lane, similar to Teresa, and I worked at the Human Rights Campaign for 3 years, and I was covering the Southwest region, trying to engage HRC members to help us win marriage equality across the country. I stayed there for 3 years. I then went to work in DC full-time for America Votes, the largest umbrella organization for 501c4 organizing. I was there for 9 years, and I met a lot of people in DC. And I think that has helped me as I transitioned to Denver when I moved after I had my twins. I kept those relationships. And what I say a little different than Teresa is I had a BlackBerry when I first started, okay, and a beeper, but the amount of access that you all have right now, and I know a lot of you are coming off of campaigns. What I've seen and what I've engaged in, because I still do campaigns, I joined the alumni groups that are formed, that someone organically forms, and we are able to communicate about jobs, about opportunities, about talent, resumes. There's so many people out there, including Gain, that have created a place where you can go and see not only these presentations, but you can see where people are looking for jobs and where you can apply to. And I think those are great tools. But when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to the networking piece, face-to-face is critical. You can see how people interact with you. You can gauge them. You can read the room better. I hate Zoom, but here we are, because this is the way we now communicate because of the pandemic. But I make an effort when I head to the East Coast to meet with a handful of people that I probably haven't seen in a few years, especially since the pandemic, but that I want to reconnect. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but making the effort, whether it's a text or a call or a, hey, I'm coming into town, let's get coffee, means the world to folks. And I appreciate it when national folks come to Denver and I get to sit down with them and hear what's happening in DC or elsewhere. So to me, still, the face-to-face is the critical piece of any networking.
It's interesting listening to you both, and I obviously have known you both for a very long time, but I didn't make the connection that we've all done NDI and we've all done HRC, among other things. So that's like both big parts of both of our, all of our past. Amazing organizations, very uniquely different, let's just say that. Yeah, not to go down how old are we and all the things we did without technology. I will say, one of my first memories coming off my first big campaign, which was Dukakis. It was not my first campaign, but the first one where I really had the bug was ending up in some bar that Teresa had invited people to. And she had a butcher box paper which she put on the wall and people had to write down what jobs they heard about. Because again, no internet, no email. No anything. And we had to literally physically in person, and that began something that was the network that was around for years called WIN, but it was literally, we would all just get together at a bar and share stories about what interview opportunities we had, what jobs we heard about that maybe we didn't want, but we thought someone else would be good at. And that kind of stuff, with or without technology is just invaluable. Teresa, I have two things that I think about with you specifically that you've done. So two words that when I think about Teresa that come to mind, Rolodex, which by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually put a Rolodex on the graphic for this event. And birthdays. Those are two words. So tell me why those two words remind me of Teresa Vilmain. You share your story, not me.
Okay, so this is, I have to say, Georgie brought up a really good point. Again, we're just going to have to go back and forth on the days that in early in life. So those of you who are on this internet thread here, you're just going to have to bear with us. But some of this was just straight out of necessity. Georgie talked about she's joined a lot of campaign alumni groups. Okay, well, we didn't have a way to go do alumni groups. So what did we do? When I moved to Washington after one of my mini campaigns, I lived in Washington, I think 3 different times. I would literally take my Rolodex, the kind that rolls, okay, and I would have a Rolodex roundup party. So what did that mean? They were, I wouldn't say they were infamous because of me. They were infamous because people How did you tell people about parties on the fly? I would call 10 people and they would call 10 people, and I would call a bar and say, if you have 5 bartenders on staff, we are going to bring 300 people to your bar in 3 days. Yeah, right. Okay, well, we literally went from bar to bar to bar over years. And then I moved out of Washington, but I still came back and I wanted to see people, and there still weren't the internets. So we had Rolodex roundups. And to this day, there are people that say, hey, when are you gonna have your next Rolodex roundup? I'm like, I'm not having a Rolodex roundup. Y'all are just gonna go send out an e-bite and we're gonna show up at a bar. But back in the day, that's what we did, which I do believe is the same thing that should happen with all of you. If you're coming to Washington or you're going to an epicenter, and that epicenter is, I live in Wisconsin. So if you're coming to Madison, Ryan Olson, who I see that's on this thread, and you want to network, you just get people together. It's just astounding that my partner, Kevin, and I have a holiday party every year, okay? To the best of our knowledge, we're the only people who have a holiday party where we don't ask for money, okay? And by asking people gather, and it's not as if this has to be about you. So that's the Rolodex Roundup concept. And the very first one I did is because it was after the presidential campaign around Dukakis, we put butcher block paper up because people kept calling me to say, I want to meet so-and-so. Okay, because my generation were the people who had the jobs. So I invite all my friends and then all the 20-year-old field organizers. And they came to a bar and people met. Whether my colleagues wanted to really meet people that were looking for jobs 24/7, while they're out, socializing and relaxing after that campaign, I didn't really care. What I cared about is access to power. And one of the ways to have access to power is for people to meet people, okay? And, some of us do want to retire from this work. And so to pay it forward, we threw parties and bars. It's a long explanation, not very complicated. And think how easy it is now. You just send out an email. You don't have to go make phone calls like we did. Literally, that's how we put the party together. She's going to say about birthdays. One of the ways that I intuitively keep in contact with people is I've been saving birthdays since I was 13. I have a very large immediate family. I love my brothers, but they've all been married and divorced twice. So I have the largest ex-wives club, sister-in-laws club known to person kind. So my immediate family fills up, 100 birthdays. But I've collected birthdays since I was 13, and I send out a birthday calendar, used to, for 6 years in a row. And then I took 8 years off. And then 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to send my birthday calendar out, which to me is a big task because I want to send it out snail mail. So you have to get everyone's mailing address. I have about approximately 5 birthdays a day for 365 days. There's not a day I don't have a birthday that I don't call or email or send a present or go show up in someone's doorstep. Okay. I don't sing anybody's happy birthday because I can't sing, but the birthday calendar is a way that I keep in contact with people. And it's simple. It's not manipulative. I don't have a strategy behind it. I just like to celebrate people's birthday, not mine, but everybody else's. But from that birthday calendar, I get asked all the time for people's addresses because people know I have 2,000 very up-to-date addresses of all generations. And what's an address? I'm into networking. And Amy wrote the book on how to do it in a professional way. So a very simple suggestion, a way to reach out to people that isn't always about work. So that's it. A Rolodex, a party, and a birthday. You see the theme here? It's all about doing something that isn't so intense about the work we do every day. How's that for a quick summary?
And fun. And fun, right? Because so much of what we do is so serious. It's really important to have fun. We're all passionate or we wouldn't do this work. We all care deeply about the issues. We're still doing this many years later. And I don't know about you all, I still wake up every single day as passionate, as motivated, perhaps more so than the day before because of the stakes and the issues that we're facing. And I don't want to even get emotional about it, but I'm still that passionate. I will probably never quit it. People threaten to quit politics all the time. I will never quit politics because it just matters that deeply to me. But what I really love about it is the connectivity, is the people that I've had the privilege of working with. And I wasn't kidding when I said I learned so much from you, Teresa. Georgie, we intentionally invited you here too. Part of it, well, I don't want you to share my story, so that's fine. We can do that another day. But you are intentional. And I think about just some of the events and, America Votes is an incredible network. It's a great organization too, but it's actually a network, right? And sharing that story, I think of like you know, again, for people who have lived pretty far apart most of our lives, we actually see each other a fair amount, even, you know, because we're intentional about going to places, right, that exist. And there is a page on my presentation, but there's a lot of events. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that or just some of the other strategies beyond bars and parties.
Well,
And
yeah. Well, I like to pat myself on the back a little bit because I was the first one to have the summit at America Votes, and the state summit is, I think, now the largest gathering of operatives, organizers in the country, maybe Netroots, but like where you get down into best practices, lessons learned, how do you operate on the 501c4 terrain. So I can't even, I 100% agree with you, Amy. They are cost prohibitive though. So look, if you can pick one or two conferences or events that you can attend that won't break the bank, and a lot of these conferences are now virtual, which is great. But again, you miss out in the conversations in the hallways, because a lot of the networking happens outside of the conferences, happens in the hallways where you see someone you haven't seen in 15 years and you reconnect, and it's fantastic. So thinking about, and I believe, Gain, or there must be a place where all these conferences live, or there should be a place where all these conferences live, where you can see if there's one in your backyard. And in a lot of cases, their registration fees are for field organizers. They give you a cheaper rate, and it's worth every dime if you're able to get to one of these larger conferences. BISC, the BISC conference in Vegas, America Votes in DC, Netroots, wherever it decides to go. Gain used to have conferences. They're critical, and they're a great way to see so many people at once and reconnect with those people. I also think, look, a lot of you, and I've been seeing in the chat, you're in battleground states. You're literally in it, and you can create even some of these events easy, as Teresa was saying. Send an invite. Let's get together. Let's bring people. Let's talk about what's next. And that doesn't cost you anything. And it's just it's an opportunity to build power within your own community. And it's a way to socialize. I mean, yeah, the work that you all do, the work that we do is tough, and it's heartbreaking, and it's a gut punch, and it's exhilarating, and like, oh my God, we did it. But you need that community to to build up your reserves, as I like to call it, because after campaign season, I'm down to here. I have nothing left to give. I just want to watch my Netflix and binge. That's what I want to do. So those are some options. And I think, and I really do believe, the conferences are a great opportunity. Everybody and their mother will have events that you can go to, free events, and you can meet people and hang out with people. And these are all people like you, like us, in it for the right reasons, trying to network and get their next gig, their next job.
Georgie, can I ask Amy just a quick question? How do you feel about people finding sponsorships for some of these things that are cost prohibitive? Does that ever happen?
Sometimes they do that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think they need to do more and more, especially since the future of our of progressive politics are in the hands of the people that are joining this conversation today. I think that there should be scholarships or free tickets for these folks to attend, because yes, it is a moneymaker for the organizations who put it on, but it's invaluable to the people who attend it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we were very lucky, actually. So we did our first actually awards program, which was a new thing. And we are doing another. We're actually just getting ready to go public with it. We did something we're calling the Powerful Idea Awards. And it's a ideas impacting democracy, elections, and advocacy. And we held our first one last June. We were very lucky to get a grant to bring people to it. We were able to bring almost 200 people, all expenses paid, because it was very important for some folks who understood. And originally it was meant to be a post-election thing, and pandemic again kicked it down the road. I'm hoping we'll get that kind of support again this year. It's one thing about donors, they're fickle. You can't always count on them. But a lot of organizations and folks do understand that it's important to provide opportunities, particularly to folks who don't have the same resources. But also, you can, Alison, you want to say something? You came on for this one. It's not crazy to do if the resources are not available. You can do your own kind of GoFundMe campaign, or help get others to sponsor you. I mean, I really someone gave some advice, and they were talking about fundraising specifically, but they were a fundraiser and a person who teaches fundraising, and they were saying, I never really am intimidated about asking for money, and a lot of people are. He said, because I view what I do as actually a service to others. They can give money so they don't have to do the work. Right. And so if you look at your life and your dedication to this work as something that is of service to others, you can often get people to sponsor you. I was able to get a lot of people to sponsor folks to come to Rwanda on a trip that I did. And that's another trip that I'm organizing. Right. So there are creative ways, because, this work can be expensive, and the kind of networking that we're talking about, travel is expensive. I don't care where it is, anywhere. It's getting more expensive right now with all supply chain and fuel costs, et cetera, et cetera. It's definitely not getting cheaper. So cost of going to these things is real, but some of the organizations do have opportunities. Also, just ask. It's no harm asking if you could have a fee waived, or they may not offer you a free hotel room, or whatever, but there are creative ways to get to these events. And there certainly are people who are willing to help cut costs. We try to make every event that we do free, and even the things that we pay for, we always have an asterisk that says we never want the cost to be a barrier to participation, and if you need a fee waived, you just have to reach out and let us know. We obviously depend on contributions and sponsors and that sort of thing for our events to even happen, so we can't waive everything, but we're very intentional, particularly about job seekers and folks who are looking to make their way in the space of not having to actually pay to attend the kind of what I will call professional development events. But some of these conferences are not meant to be just for career seekers, right? They are for organizers and events. So each one's a little bit different. You said, is there a calendar of it? We try to post, we certainly cross promote pretty much any progressive event. And I will say another great place, so they don't all have to be the big events, but Mobilize, which is a tool, probably all of you even used it on your campaigns. They now part of the NGP family, but if you just go to Mobilize, right, they have, it's not just volunteer work and campaign work, but events of all kinds. And it's a great place to go to find different events and activities. So whether it's going to an event or going to a fundraiser or going to volunteering, just because we're professionals doesn't mean we have to get paid for all the work that we do. But it's a great way to network and going to these events. So I always push people to go check out Mobilize if you want to meet people. I'm in Cambridge, by the way, Massachusetts, which, while it's the place I grew up, I actually have not spent that much time here. I've spent most of my life in DC. And so my point being is I actually don't have a huge network here, despite how big my network is nationally. I don't have a lot of what I will call community here. And so I go and I look at it for meeting with folks here. I go volunteer on events, and people have no idea that I do work in national politics. And I don't really care. I'm looking to meet people in my neighborhood and folks. So, I still do this at this age, and despite having worked in years and having gained power and all this network, I still go and look for places to meet people. I met some folks at Netroots who I'm going to meet here. So these real life events, again, I love that we can do Zoom. I don't hate Zoom. I don't love Zoom, but I don't hate it. I love that we have tools that actually keep us connected. And frankly, the other thing about these kind of events is they are back to the cost. It lowers the barrier of entry, right? You don't have to fly across the country to participate in some of these events. So participating on Zooms, participating in different networking events online, is, the next best thing to being there and a lot more affordable, but you do have to be a little more aggressive about making the connections. It's hard for some people to make connections in real life, let alone online. So those are a couple tips that I have. I don't know, Alison, you chimed in or jumped in. You haven't chimed in yet. I'd love you to chime in here.
And I really wasn't planning on it, but I do want to talk about some of these like kind of really low barrier things that people can do to network. And actually, Teresa gave me this idea, and I do it once a year now. And it is that I send out a mass email to my contacts. These are the people that I know. They're not people I don't know. And I'm just letting them know, hey, what's up? Right. So I'm saying like, hey, here's what's going on with me. I'm open to some new projects right now. Here's my updated resume, a few things I've done. I probably send it out to a few hundred people, and maybe I get, up to 15 to 20 responses, most of which are great to hear from you. Glad to hear things are going well. But then I get the one that's like, oh, I didn't know you were doing that. And it sort of generates that, again, you're just trying to keep on people's radars. It doesn't necessarily have to be people you don't know. But you can say, please feel free to pass my resume along. I'm like open to new opportunities. And so those things, they just jog people's memories. So just staying on people's radars. And I saw somebody saying, there's some hesitant networkers, and I am definitely one of those. Sending out that email, and just, you have to let people know you're looking. That's the first thing. Be loud about it. It's okay. It's so normal in this business. And nobody will think you're a pest, because I think that is the innermost, like, oh gosh, I'm being a pain in the butt. You're not. It's expected. I get a ton of these this time of year. They start rolling in like, hey, just want to let you know, great, good to know, because you never know what's going to come my way. And I'm going to remember, oh, a month ago, Georgie mentioned that she was open to some new projects. I should reach out to her. But you do have to, send it out in an email template. Sure. But make it personal. I mean, really, it's, these are your connections, and let people know, hey, I'm open to meet for coffee, to the point of like that personal face-to-face connection. But like, there are some really low-level things that you can do, again, just to keep on people's radars.
Amy, can I add one quick thing there? So when people jump in and say, Teresa, can you help me look for work? This is the first thing I tell them. Part of what Alison mentioned. You're going to get 20 people that I'm just making up a number, but 20 people are going to be your posse. Okay. They're going to be your posse. And they're going to help you find a job. First thing I say is get us all on an email list. Okay. And let us know what you're looking for. Okay. You probably can't swing a dead cat or a dog. I don't want to make people feel bad if they have animals. I don't have animals. And not run into somebody that you already know, that knows somebody on a board that's at an organization or an entity that you want to apply for. So for someone who goes and connects people daily, what I like being on an email thread. I want to know that Ryan Olson found her job. Okay. But I also want to know, Ryan, what else are you doing now? Do I have to call your dad to find out who I know in Wisconsin? But I keep in touch because Ryan, I hear from her and what she's doing in her life. But it's also just nice to know that you're still looking for work, because we aren't all in the same place. And I think it's much easier for those of us who don't live in Washington to create this kind of system, because we have to do it out of necessity. We're not hobnobbing and going to whatever party there is down the road. And we're not necessarily at Georgie. My gosh, I didn't know that you created those summits. Hats off to you. You should get an award just for doing that, because those are like really rich places to go, but you might not be able to get there. So keep us all in one email group. Let us know that you got the job once you get the job. But sometimes it takes people 6 months to find it. That's okay. But I want to know who else you're reaching out to, so I don't waste any calories trying to introduce you to Sally Blow, because Sally Blow is already part of your community. So I would organize yourself in a way that makes it very easy for people like the four of us to help move your resume to places. And what do I do when I find a resume that people are looking? I just write serious talent alert, okay, on an email. And I don't spin War and Peace. I just say, send me your paragraph about what you need. And do you have a car and whatever. And then move it out to the internet, because there are the great sites that Amy has and Amy's created, right? And Georgie has created, and Alison's created. But if you want to go do the generic version, create your own community and put your own team together. And no, you're not bothering us. You're going to bother us if you don't find a job. That's the problem. We want to help people get jobs in a very organic way. Georgie created the most amazing summit. I just can't believe that was you. I can't believe it. I just didn't know it was you because that's where I met you. I didn't know you did it. You're too
That
shy.
was, yeah, well,
Too shy. I didn't know that.
oh, man.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Organize us.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, well, and it feels sort of obvious, but I mean, I will tell you, help other people find work. That's the other thing, is be the person who, even whether you're looking or not looking, always be the person who helps people find work. I will say, I've quite literally made a career out of it, although, little known fact, and Alison knows this very well, I've actually never gotten paid for game, ever. It's never been my job. It is like literally a lifelong side hustle that I do because I'm passionate about it. I get paid very well doing other things, by the way. No one should actually worry about how my making a living, but I get paid because I really truly believe this. People will roll their eyes at me, but I believe I get paid in karma every single day. And like, what is karma? Like, it is just the world coming back to you for good acts, and helping people find work is a good act. People remember like who their first grade teacher was, and like who they went to the prom with and who helped them get their first jobs. Like, that's just a thing. Like, I will forever be the person who helped people get jobs. And that's like an incredible thing. Like, it is like, it'll be written on my gravestone. She helped people find work, right? Because like, that's like, it helps people feed themselves, put a house over their head. You know what I mean? Like, it's the most basic thing. So like, be the person who helps people find work, right? So yeah, we're just battling here, George. Like, please, if anyone has questions, we should have just said that, keep them open, because this is really a special moment to have all these women together. I'm like loving just seeing their faces and being in community with you here. But please do ask questions. I know I saw someone asked about a template, but yes, we'll definitely create one. I was actually talking about how to do one today, because Google, little tip for everybody, now has templates. You don't have to have some fancy tool. Google actually has email templates that you can create and do some really basic ones. So write a letter about yourself to yourself and then share it with others, right? Let people know what you're doing. Do, whether it's holidays, do like people call them, like, a lot of people still do these sort of holiday newsletters. Like, treat it like it's a newsletter. It doesn't have to be around Christmas, doesn't have to be, for us, the holiday is post-election. But write a newsletter about what you did this year. Just tell people, right? Share it, and then share it with your list and create it as a template. My other tip for folks, and I gave it to someone yesterday who I think is on this session too, but you just put together sort of links about yourself, whether it's your social media links, whether it's resume, and then create one of those link trees there's a bunch of different ones. Linktree is one of them, but share it with others. Let people know, because you just don't know who's going to hear about something and think about you. And this is true even if you do have a work right now. It might be just something new you want to do. It's not just for the people who are coming off campaigns. So I don't know if folks have questions. Like I said, I could keep talking with these ladies all day long. So,
well, and I would just flag, just so folks know, that we are doing a virtual networking event as part of Networking Week on Thursday. I'll find the link for registration, but we have a kind of a cool platform that we use, and it allows us to go into small groups, to one-on-ones, to meet with people. So we're doing a few of those throughout the course of the next couple of months, and they're a lot of fun. So, be on the lookout, check our calendar for that, and do come to those. They're, again, low stakes. They're just on the computer. They're free. So take advantage of that.
One other thing I wanted to throw out there, unless Georgie, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, but you go first, Teresa, and then I'll go.
So for those of you who are going to meet people on Zoom or in person, and if you're meeting them for the kind of first or second time and it's, it's a little awkward, it's always nice to give someone a task. So what I always suggest to people is ask that person one or two other people that you should go meet with, because then that gets that person talking about their networks. And then you don't have to do all the talking, okay? And if they're saying yes to meeting with you and you don't know them that well because a friend connected you with them, they're in it all for the right reason. So it's not an awkward question, but it's giving them an assignment. I like to have assignments if I'm meeting with folks. So what's one or two people that they think you should go meet with, and who would they introduce you to? Okay, because I just have templates. I introduce people every day, just like the other three women on the Zoom. all day, every day. That's what we do. And I give out email addresses and home snail mail addresses, because lots of people still like to write thank you notes, which is a minor little detail, which we could talk about ad nauseum. But I think you should not feel awkward when you're in your little one-on-one, whether there's Zoom, okay, or in person. Who else do you think I should network with, and who could you introduce me to? Because, you know, their wisdom of what they can do to help you in this first kind of awkward both ways kind of meet and greet, right? The Match.com date. What do you want them to do? They're going to give you some career advice, but they've got Rolodexes. That's what I would ask them. And it's rare that anyone says no.
What were you going to say, Georgie?
I was going to talk about, I think one of the questions that I received before this was about, you know, how do you handle when someone you haven't heard from in many, many moons and they come and ask you for a job or recommendation or whatever. And I do get that a lot, especially a lot of people want to move to Denver, Colorado. But my answer to that question is I don't mind. I think what you said, Amy, is karma comes back to you. I know that I was on the other end of this for a long time and still am. Honestly, we hustle every single day. We try to meet with people, talk to people, raise money, get jobs. It is still part of what we do. It's our DNA at Amplify Power, at any other organizations that we volunteer or on the board for. We literally do this every single day. So I want to tell you all is reach out to your network, reach out to the you know, what's on the low-hanging fruit of your tree that you can immediately reach out to and ask for coffee, a meeting, whatever it is. 99% of the time you're going to get a what works for you. Let's get it on the books. Just be open and vulnerable to have those conversations. And it is scary. And for me, it hasn't gotten any better. I'm still like, oh, why do I have to market? Why do I have to do marketing? But I do it because you have to. It's part of what we do in this world, and continuing to build and create those relationships. Because I could probably see someone like Amy. I probably hadn't seen you for 3 or 4 years. I see you in Vegas. I said, let's start a company. It was just like that. So to you all, I'm so glad that you joined this. Number one, that's step one. Number two is start creating your list and start reaching out. And you know, it is after election season, it is during holidays, so it might be quiet, but do not feel like you're being ignored. It is just people are just trying to catch their breath. Which I hope you all are as well. You've been doing such tremendous work, but start up again after the new year and get going and get at it. That's what I would recommend.
I have to say, I've made a career out of, or not even a career. It's like, it's a, whether you call it a fixation or a passion's definitely not the right word, because most of the time it's really annoying to me, but back to just making lists and keeping lists and being not just birthday, but like everything. And it's something that I really encourage you. And I don't care if you're 22 or 52 or whatever, but if you don't have a good contact list, like now is the time to start. And it is literally make it a lifetime commitment. This is not like create a spreadsheet. In fact, definitely don't use a spreadsheet. That's probably the worst tool out there. But Google's free. Google Contacts is free. Be intentional about collecting people's information and keeping up with people. And there are plenty, God knows, with social media. Not everybody is on LinkedIn, but it's a great resource for those who are. Teresa, you're not on it. I tried to look for you today. Definitely not on it. We should talk about that. But anyway, you certainly don't have to be on it at this point in life, but it is a place that people go. The other thing about LinkedIn is it's not just about it's kind of like the Kevin Bacon game. People like to go see who you're connected to, because that's the other thing. People really want to know who's like, how do I know this person, or who do they know? If I get a cold call or a cold email, first thing I do is like, who are they connected to? You know, I get a lot of them on LinkedIn, and I respond to about half of them and I ignore about half of them. The ones I ignore, frankly, the ones who are not germane. Like I get a lot of these very weird business, you know, I'll help you market yourself. And, you know, somebody asked if they could, I don't know, I get 2 or 3 a day that I just flat out totally ignore. I delete. I don't like, you know, I don't report this as spam, but they are kind of spamish, right? But if you are connected in politics, if you are very obviously have done any kind of work on any kind of campaign, I will connect to you in 2 seconds, you know? Whether that's for gain power, whether that's for other work, if I can be helpful to you, you know, we want to be, well, back to, you know, I won't give recommendations. I will say that is my one line. I do not give recommendations to people I haven't actually directly worked with. And I've just had to sort of make that as a line for myself. It doesn't mean I won't give you an email or forward your resume or something, but I'm pretty careful to only recommend people that I've worked with, because my network is so wide, and I am a little reluctant to, but that again, doesn't mean I won't refer you to hit up Teresa or hit up Alison or hit up, you know, one of the 10,000 other people who work in our space, but be intentional about making those connections and just keeping them up over time. And LinkedIn's a great way to do it. Twitter, less so these days, although it seems like everyone's still on it. All these places, you know, I put this on my slide deck, but there's so many great communities. Some of us are a part of something called the Persistence. For some of the other women on this, if you want to join that, it's actually private, it's not secret, but you know, it's a group of women consultants. It's a really kind of special community for those of us who do this work. It's not that big, it's about 300 of us. There's a couple others. There's a digital professional network on Facebook that's really amazing. There's about 3,000 people on that, all progressive, all over the country, all people who do this work. There's some amazing listservs out there, everything from like nerdy emails, which Jasper Carter-Morales started years ago. And it's literally about people who do emails for a living in this space. There are niche networks with it. Like we're a niche network definitionally, progressive politics, but like there are so many little micro networks within that. And that's not even getting into the, you know, the specialty ones in states and specialty ones on issues and specialty ones on identity, right? There's so many. So pick your lanes. That's just another thing is, and be someone who's an organizer of some of the space and go into it, be active within it. Yes, I agree. Flex your muscle on it, but there's lots of micro networks, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned a few of them. I would give a shout out to Organizer Meme, who is a Twitter person, and who is, if you follow them, I gotta get better with my pronouns, follow them on Twitter, is an amazing community really for people who work in progressive politics. Just literally this one Twitter, people are able to submit comments there. Dear White Staffer is another one, does it much more on Instagram. Again, community and all these social networks that we didn't have. But you notice we started with the real life stuff, and I still believe the real life is the most important. Nobody's asking questions, which I'm shocked by, but we still have a lot of folks still here. I do want to make sure we give an opportunity for questions before we wrap this up as we tip up to the hour here. And ladies, other parting advice?
I'd start writing that generic email right now that Alison made point to and Georgie made point to. Like, what can you do over the holidays? Some people think, let's not bother people over the holidays. If people have time and they're bored with their family, they're going to be online. So, and if they're not bored, they're going to get to you after the first of the year. I would not ignore people in the month of December because you think they might be doing holidays, okay? I have a holiday party. I have my 4 best friends from high school that come to my house for 4 days, and I kick out my partner. I have 9 people that come over to my house and I wrap their presents. I am like a holiday nerd. But there are times in the quiet of the night that I'm online. It's not like I'm never going to be away from that. And that's a valuable month. And if people can't do it, or they have their own boundaries and they're not going to be on, and they're like those of us who want to network, they'll get back to you after the holidays. But let's not just take the break of December because you can miss out on an amazing event that Georgie might be organizing in Colorado, all right, that Alison and Amy might be doing another piece of networking. So let's not take 30 days off from the work that you all are doing and that you're looking for. And again, I'm looking for work doesn't have to be War and Peace. It just doesn't. But Georgie, that whole gut, I'd never looked for a job on the internet, using the internet until 11 years ago. Because I had job after job after job, and I realized, oh my God, I gotta go tell people that I'm looking for work. I closed my eyes, I put 50 women in an email, and I had my girlfriend write my paragraph, just like I had my sister write my Match.com paragraph. I didn't know how to sell myself, and I was 50 some years old. So I then just headed out, and just like Alison said, it took 2 people. And for 10 years, I worked with 2 projects with those two people. That's all it took. So you have your list. Good luck with that. And hopefully we're going to get on some of your lists, because you're going to
I
call
love
in
that
and say,
advice.
I like that too.
I totally love that advice of having someone else write it. My tip is like, write your own letter of recommendation, but have, which is another thing, is collect letter of recommendations, even if they're private, help people write them for you, but kind of keep them in your back pocket, can be incredibly useful tools. I will give you one of my tricks, whatever, which is, I'm going to put it, which is simply my website, amypritchard.com. So one thing, own your name. I own my name. If you don't own your name, go find your name. But my amypritchard.com, it's not really a website. It's a link tree. It's back to like, I do 20 different things. I've got a nonprofit and a couple companies and different projects and on social media. So I don't necessarily want to send people to one site. So I send people, today's Giving Tuesday. Anybody wants to support my fundraiser today, I put that on the top of my link tree, right? Like, again, I have different issues that I care about on any given day. So Linktree allows me to like just put different things up there about them. We launched a company recently, just a few months ago, Georgie and I. We're always looking for clients, put that on the Linktree, right? So it doesn't have to be a formal website. The Linktrees are really cool. And again, Linktree is one of a thing. It's like Kleenex. There's other brands, right? So there's other Linktrees that you can make.
Amplify power, Teresa.
Amplify
Powers. Yeah, there we go. I'll market ourselves right now.
I'm just gonna like model some behavior here. Y'all say you keep your clients. You ought to tell
You'll
people.
notice the word power, gain power and amplify power. I have, by the way, it's a word I became obsessed with fairly recently, by the way, despite having worked in this, all this time. And it's because I think that's ultimately what we're all trying to get. And it's certainly what we're trying to build for others, and it's a word that I think we need to celebrate and elevate and not be shy about, is building power. And so gain power to me is about helping people literally gain power, right? Like it is literally, whether that's through your personal life or helping you build power for our progressive movement in our country. So yes, and then Amplify Power, Georgie and my company. But drop your links, link to us, sign up. You're all here, so you obviously know about Gain Power. So thank you all for being here. We're already tipping over the hour. We started a minute late, so we'll end a minute late. But I am ever so grateful. So happy to see all of you and to connect with those of you who are not seeing. Grateful for all of you being here. We will post this online along with the links to our presentations. And yeah, that's it. Hit us up if you need anything. We do have another networking event on Thursday. Like I said, that's more like the speed networking, and yeah, much more. And happy holidays all.
Thank you.
All good. I'm going to end us. Have a great day.